Hi, this is Kelly Borsheim. I want to start my painting again today, although, let's see if I can aim that here. Look, you can see, look how gorgeous and cloudy it is today. See that? So you can tell on my model back behind me here that I don't have enough light there to really make it, something that I want to put in my painting. But I decided that I'm going to work on doing the clusters of the groups of leaves here so I can start developing the composition because I hate to lose time. And it's supposed to rain tomorrow according to my neighbor, so I'm gonna paint. And while it's a gorgeous day and it's not hot and I don't have dramatic blaring light, I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on putting in the groups of the olive branches and start covering this up a little bit and figuring out exactly what I want to do with this. And I may refine some of these colors. We're going to see how it goes. But why waste time? And it's a gorgeous day, and I don't think it's going to rain, but my neighbor told me that it will tomorrow. So I want to take advantage of this because I'm excited about doing this painting and also finishing this painting so that I can get on to my figure projects that I left dangling. And this was, I tend to do a painting like of something else that's going to help me with a future painting, but is not actually the painting, because when I haven't been at it for a while, I tend to lose confidence that I haven't been drawing and I don't know what I'm doing. And also in this period, I'm trying to branch out and do something a little bit different, which may or may not look different to you, but it's definitely different to me in the approach and the things that I'm consciously aware of trying to learn how to do. All right, so I decided to change the position a little bit. I forgot to paint out this actually. I'm moving this branch to be down here, which is actually closer to accurate. But also I wanted some more space here to develop a little bit of secondary interest. I also moved this branch that was up here, also moved it down, and that I actually like that better. I see more of the twisting because one of the things about the personality of the olive tree is how much, because of the pruning, how it changes directions and zigzags quite a lot. And so I didn't get enough of that interest in here, and I want to play with that a little bit. Although you can see from the straight edge of that it doesn't do a whole lot of stuff, but it certainly does more than just this here. So I want to put in some more of that interest to get that personality of this old wrinkly sort of kind of thing that it does. And that's a great thing about acrylics, but I also know that I can bounce around here, and then I want to let that dry. Then I can come in and develop other layers, so that's what I'm working on now. So now it has decided it's going to start sprinkling in my little paradise scene here. And I'm going to have to call this a day. I've got my umbrella lying down on the floor because I didn't want the wind yesterday to destroy it. So this is the painting as it is. And I started to develop some of the thing here, put in a few more branches. I'm going to put in another branch up in here so that it can cascade and fall down into this area. And of course I'll keep developing this. And when I stand back and look at this composition, I think I don't like how it's almost right at this line here that all the bright color starts to happen. So I'm going to find a way to put in some yellow, I think, up into here a little bit to make this part interesting, but not enough to take over the star of the show, because I do want the center of interest to be here. So yeah, I just don't like it's too symmetrical this much, so keep gonna go on that. But I like doing this acrylic in layers. It's also nice because when I have a short period of time like this, I only take out 2 colors. I find that's a little bit frustrating because maybe I want to have this a little more warm and a little more cool, but I think as I get into the acrylics more often and use some of this and do some more plein air painting, I'll maybe put 3 colors out, or actually, although actually, because I started doing branches, I have a burnt umber, a black, a sap green, which is a very dark green of this Florence made paint, and then olive green, and then a white. And I did put in some of this retarder here. So, actually I probably should have held that there. Can you read it now? Okay, so I have that. I've been using these paints as well as the paints made from Zecchi's at there. So yeah, here you go. Here's a label for that. So that's what I've been using, the sap green and stuff. So let's call this a day and get out of here before the rain hits. Ciao. Oh, also, say goodbye to Yoda. Yoda! His daddy will be home soon. Yeah. He wants to find another toad. He just found a big one there a minute ago. All right, let's get to painting. Okay, I think last time I spoke about how I didn't like how this part here lined up with this directly as a straight. So now I've decided that instead of moving this up into here, I want to move the fields down lower, because I looked at reality, and but really I think I made this decision last night, but I looked at reality, and even though the rape is not actually growing, let's see, in a straight, it's not filling all of the field it can. So you see right in here, it didn't fill out the rows. But if I follow the black line of the water, the irrigation system right here, that gives me an angle this way. And so I know I can pull that forward and still have it look like it matches nature. So up in here, let's move this back down again, zoom it, focus. Okay, so back in here, I took that same line that I saw there and transferred it here a bit. And now you can see that I haven't done a good job matching the color, and also this particular hue of this lighter green here is quite transparent, so I'll need to do some things to make sure that I don't have that coming. But also, this may be just a wee bit too bright, but I kind of want to do that because it's not my norm. So I also want to just emphasize this area. So, okay, so I just decided to extend this and a wee bit beyond this tree, because it seems stupid to have diagonals go there and then not continue this shape. But I just wanted to see what it looked like. I can always take it back out. So now I'm backing up, and let's see what this looks like. I like this better, and let me put that on there for you. And I'll tell you why. It's because this part here does make an arrow into the painting. Okay, that's convenient and lovely and doing exactly what I want it to do. So you go this way, and then you crawl up here, and because your eye follows the points of contrast. So I like it actually that this is a curve. It's granted, literally, there are trees on a hillside that's slanting this way, but that works fine because I'm getting a really nice curve that goes in here, okay? So I think that contrasts beautifully because the tree's energy is coming up this way. So I really enjoy what's happening here, and I'm going to continue to develop it. All right, see you next time. Okay, I wanted to show you what I'm doing here. I'm developing the rape that's in this field that's behind the olive tree, and I'm wanting to break up these shapes. Because look here where I did just the rows, because I have light coming in from the left, and so I want the light to be on the light side of the plants. But each row is going to be receiving light, and then each row is going to be going in shadow, okay? So I started to develop the lines of perspectives going to a vanishing point that's up over here somewhere. And now that I have that established, I want to come in here and, like this, start trying to be random in breaking up the shapes. Because if you can look at the rape here, it's not a perfectly even plant. It's doing all sorts of random things, and the leaves are flopping every which way, that sort of thing. So I want to repeat that kind of idea, because for me, really, the truth is your brain doesn't need to know that that's rape. It can decide that it's any other kind of lettucing type plant, and that's fine. That's really enough, because it's not the subject of the sentence. It's enhancing the subject that's here. And even if it were the subject of sentence, it's far enough away that I wouldn't have that detail of seeing all that. I can see flip-flopping foliage and rows, and my brain is totally content. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is I'm using different greens, warmer greens, for this. One, because it's closer to the reality, but well, these are not real colors at all. They're totally exaggerated. I'm kind of enjoying that. But what I mean is I want to have warm greens in this area, and then the olives are going to be kind of a blue-green, sort of a gray-green stuff. So I want this color and this tone to contrast a lot with the tree that's in front of it, and then all of the rest of this section is going to be olive branches, and they're all going to be fairly cool in color. Now, it's raining right now, so I shouldn't be actually painting, but look how gorgeous that is. But you can also see how gray it is. So do you see up in here, the little bit of trees that are changing color like this that are behind that adds a little bit of interest, because otherwise I can't say this would be boring, because I love trees and I just love the dark flowing in between all this light gray green thing. However, it is nice to have a little bit of change once in a while. So that's what I'm working on: contrast, tone, hue, saturation, and trying to remember to keep my perspective from going askew. That's why I did the lines first and then I'll come in. But I am enjoying layering the acrylics, especially like down in here. Now, oh, to mention, I'm using the same size brush as I did yesterday for the olive stuff. It's just, it's a little one like this here. But and I'm using kind of crappy brushes, to be honest with you, but I like it because they get destroyed and then I get these squishy squashy kind of lines going places that I wouldn't get with a more controlled brush. And when I started the painting, I started off with a much bigger brush. So I do want to change the brush size to make all the strokes a little bit naturally inclined to be something different, okay? All right, gonna paint now. I do that sometimes. All right, it's Kelly Borsheim. I'm back again and working on this painting of an olive tree. So one of the things that impresses me, or maybe, impresses me about olive trees is just the abundance of them. So one of the problems I'm having, because I'm not really a landscape painter, I find the information in a landscape completely overwhelming. And when I went to decide on the patterns of the light shapes to put in the leaves of the olives, I decided that it was easier for me to start with the branches and have something to build leaves off of, and not just group them in masses of shapes as every landscape artist is going to tell you to do. So I think there's a really good information, but I'm working with my brain and this is what I want to do. So, if it turns out ugly, big deal. It stays in my collection, or I burn it, or I paint over it. So right now, I don't know if you can see or not, but I'm using some raw umber and white to start in some branches. And in this case, I'm looking at the quality, because that's one reason I love the olive trees, is do you see how it does? Let's see if I can get my finger there. Look at the bunt and bunt, and it changes direction quite a bit. You can see how scraggly and jiggy-jaggy that they are. This is the quality that I'm trying to get. So we go back to the painting, and you can see here, actually when I get close the light is up. Okay, so here I go, and I'm trying to get some branches to work off of. Okay, so there's some jiggy-jaggy, great jiggy-jaggy, right? I put that in front of the light background because I wanted to show off the quality of that, and it's easier there. Up here, I'm going to have more clusters of things, so maybe it won't show up as much. But still, I have something to work off of. I'm going to do this half of the painting today until it rains. And then I'm going to see if I like it or not. If not, then I have to regroup and figure out what else is next. So I'll see you in a bit. I'm going to start adding some light. Oh, I did want to say that one thing about working in the rain that was really nice is, you see that I really do have a easiness of light and dark shapes. When I look at my painting, I've got too much confusion going on in a lot of ways as far as grouping the subjects. I know I spoke about, this doing the little sort of question mark curve here, but I really want to make sure that the leaves end up being grouped together so that there's an order and an organization to this end, of which will end to a beauty. So that's what I'm shooting for. It's a little bit hard right now to work when I have no sunlight, but I feel like I've got enough stuff I can keep doing in the meantime that I really want to develop this. So ciao for now. I'm gonna paint. Good morning. We haven't quite decided today if we're having a sunny day. Oh, look, there's some. Or we're having kind of a cloudy, hazy day. But in any event. So today on my painting here, I looked at it, and you've heard me often say that I want to go with the worst first and repairing that. So I decided that instead of continuing down here, I've got this kind of looking tree-like kind of stuff, and it's got some of the effect that I'm wanting. So I decided to come back over here and get this more in line with this, thinking I can do that later for some reason. So I decided at some point I didn't like the shapes that I had drawn here. I felt that they were kind of boring and they let off the canvas. So also I wanted clumps of the olive leaves to be in certain places, and I didn't have any kind of structure to make that happen. So that's another reason. So I changed the position of these. Maybe I'll try to put up a before and after. So I'm really happy with, I'm still getting my jig-jaggies that are the nature of olives and that I enjoy. And so then I was able to paint over some of the backgrounds that I've cut out here, and I hope it's a lot better now. He's coming along. When it's interesting to me to photograph a piece while I'm working on it, because it's like having a fresh eye, and you don't often get that when you're working alone. So that's quite nice. Now, another detail that I'm going to start adding in, because now actually with acrylic, even though this dries quickly, and I have not decided to use retarder because for some reason I can't get my head around mixing it in with all the pigments and blah blah. So anyway, I'm going to let this dry a little bit, maybe work a few more things to put in some darks to make sure I'm kind of understanding where exactly my branches are. But after that, then I'll probably come down here and take a look at this, because now when I step back, of course, this is the part down here that needs the most attention as far as developing the piece together. And then another side note is that as I start doing the leaves, I really, really enjoy this big blotch of purple right here, which is funny because it doesn't really make sense there and it belongs there, but I'm adding it into various places here. Here I blended it more with some of the dark, so it's a more subtle kind of thing that maybe you would only see in the sun kind of thing. But I want to start adding some other contrary colors into this and not just make everything so straightforward. So I decided that I'm going to take my lighter purple here and add it into some of the olive branches. And I'm going to do this more about the midtones because I think I would definitely want the light coming down through the middle here, as I spoke about in an earlier video. And the lighter you go, the paler the color is going to be generally, naturally. And so but the transitions are really glorious. That's when your action happens. That's when the joy and the mysteriousness, and even in life, that's where your make it or break it kind of things are going to happen. So we're going to play with that a little bit as I see a puppy dog coming up towards me. Hey, hey. Okay, ciao. All right, this is perhaps an aside here. However, when I stood back to look at my painting, because you have to stand back a lot to really see what you're doing, otherwise you get lost in your little details that turn out into nothing. But I decided that this part here had lost the darkness of it, especially now that I'm having a little bit of sunlight. I really, really am liking the very, very dark part of the tree trunk and the branches itself coming out. The smaller branches, the newer branches, are more of a raw umber and white color, and they don't have the texture that the older parts do. But what I felt is that my composition starts dropping off over here, and I need some kind of balance with that. So I want to put the darks in, and I had this weird thought that had occurred to me when I was deciding which brush to pick up, because I thought, there's so much going on in here that maybe I want to use a smaller brush to really just get into the pieces of that. And then I thought, no. And this thing occurred to me about music and literature. It was a class that I took when I was in university from Dr. Paul Cohen in Texas. And the premise was that centuries ago, music and literature were one art. And the class consisted of us taking pieces of literature and seeing how the language had been put to use in a musical way, that if you had read it out loud, it would be musical. Obviously, such as Shakespeare and some of the more poetically oriented writers. But my assignment that I chose for that year was to take Scheherazade and tell how the melodies and the instruments used and things like that were creating a storyline. And it really was quite easy to do in a lot of ways, because there is a chorus line for every time that Scheherazade is repeating the next morning, kind of thing. And then you have the melody changes dramatically for a different story. Each day she tells a different story to save her life, and of course she never finishes it because she wants to live through the night. And so that way in the morning she has to finish her exotic story in order to live, and then she or obviously would start a new one that never gets finished. And in this way she saved her life. But the interesting thing, and maybe it's not connected, maybe I'm just weird, but I decided that I wanted to use the same brush that I had been using for the rest of this tree here, because it would be like the voice of Scheherazade. The voice would be of the tree is the larger paintbrush, and the smaller one will be the leaves. And I don't know that I'll use more than 2 brushes for this, because that's just, overkill, and I don't want to get into too much detail, so I am trying to use a brush that's larger than what I actually need for any moment. Good grief, look at today, the light has gone again. So yeah, we have some cloud cover. Good, that's just perks of being outside, but it's really actually a gorgeous day because the air is cool, but it's not cold. So I can paint sleeveless, which I like because it feels like it gives me more room to be messy if I need without destroying clothes. Anyhow, so yes, I'm going to go ahead and take the larger brush again, keep the story going for the texture here, and then just dabble it into these places. If I mess up, I can Google it over. But do you see the difference in this? I've got the nice contrast going here. I don't, again, because this is at the end of the thing, I don't need it to be really, really contrast because I want the eye to be traveling into the composition. Oh, another thing I was going to tell you that I had heard years and years and years ago, and it's always just struck me funny because anytime anyone makes an absolute statement, then I have to go, really? So I start looking for things. But someone had said to me once that a sign of a good painting was that each corner was different. And so I've been looking at that, and I think obviously it depends on the subject and things like that. There are great portraits that simply go to black in the background, but generally a gradation tone is more interesting. But it is an interesting idea and something that I try to remember to look at each of my paintings when I get to the final critique stage to make sure, have I made this interesting in all ways? Is this an eye candy kind of thing? So I'm going to paint for a while. Ciao, ciao. This is Kelly Borsheim. See my art at borsheimarts.com. Borsheim. And thank you for watching.